What's up, guys? Welcome to Couple Dishes Podcast with your hosts, Matt Chartrick, and myself, Peter Finera. This is a podcast where we tackle current events and hot nutrition topics, one conversation at a time. Remember, guys, give us a follow, download episodes. Make sure you guys rate us those 5 stars. Check us out on YouTube. We're pretty good-looking individuals. I think we're pretty cool. And make sure you guys also rate us on YouTube and leave some comments, guys. Let us know how you're doing. Let us know what you guys want to hear. Let us know what we're doing wrong. If you see something incorrectly, let us know. Correct us.
So exactly. And Peter has beautiful hair in this freaking podcast video. So make sure you guys check out his hair. And I think he deserves a 5-star just for that beautiful hair he has.
That's what I'm saying, man. I'm trying to, get some new hair products in. It's a joke. I just use shampoo and conditioner.
Hey, sometimes you got to use a little product, man. I do it myself. Sometimes a product that I've used is the anti-frizz one. Sometimes my hair is all over the place, man. But it's a long hair thing. You don't understand, Peter.
I don't. Anti-frizz, like, it makes your hair less frizzy? Or what issue does it solve?
I think the issue is anti-curl, where it prevents curls from forming. But my hair is curly, so I don't know, man. It just helps it keep in place, bro.
Is your hair curly? I thought your hair was always straight.
When it's short, it's usually straight. As I get longer and I'm doing the whole Jesus look, it's getting a little bit more curly, man.
Interesting. All right, well, enough about hair. What are we talking about today, Matt?
So today's episode, guys, we're going to give you guys some great detail, great advice about finances, how to manage them, how to be successful in the finance world. And we're also going to talk about processed foods. A lot of people disassociate with, highly processed. And let's find that sweet medium in between. We'll tell you guys what exactly is processed, what you should avoid, and what you should eat. I feel like we talk about eating and food a lot, but we're breaking down into little subcategories, and we're going to focus on processed, highly processed.
So what does processed mean? One would obviously ask. So processed is anything that has to be mechanically or chemically altered or has additives, just for taste or for any kind of purpose. So if, when you're getting meat, if it's not a chunk of meat, if it has more than 1 or 2 ingredients, it's usually going to be processed. So you could take a look at the difference between like actual piece of meat, let's say like a pork shoulder compared to like your pork breakfast sausage. Like the pork shoulder, it's one big slab of meat, so that's not processed compared to your pork breakfast sausage where it's in the little plastic wrapping and, it stays on the shelf for a very long time, and that's considered processed.
And sometimes I like to think of processed foods as look at the ingredients. Compare mac and cheese to an orange. Very simple, right? Of course, the mac and cheese is natural. And the reason being is let's look at whole foods versus processed foods. So whole foods is anything that's in its organic form when it was technically, I want to say, born, grown, raised, whatever it is. An orange that's picked from the tree is an organic form orange, one ingredient, orange, and you're going to eat it that way. When it comes to processed foods, they, just like Peter said, mechanically alter these things, and you're not eating it in the organic form that it was grown. So
a good way to think about this is look at a food that that you're thinking about getting and think if you can make it at home. So let's say you want a burgers. You can either buy a pre-made burger that's frozen in like a carton that has a pack of 8, or you can make it at home with just buying beef and then adding seasoning to it. So that's how differentiate between something that's processed and not, because what's not processed is going to be you actually making a burger at home and adding your components to it, the salt, pepper, whatever, oregano, or whatever seasoning you like, compared to the frozen burger where it's been loaded with additives just to make it last longer and just to make it taste better.
Yeah, you literally have to be like a Nazi, and every single label, whatever you're purchasing in a store, you got to turn it around and you got to look at it, read it, and like see what's going on. Even when it comes to like dressings, let's talk about dressings. I hate to buy like ranch and all that stuff. I look at everything and I try to avoid vegetable oils, and also they add a lot of these different gums and different things to add a little bit more texture. You want to get the most organic form possibly with whatever organic is in your definition, because that's like a very skewed word that's just thrown around. You know what I mean? Even when it comes to purchasing like ketchup, guys. Ketchup, I love ketchup. That's why I'm going to talk about it. Anywhere I go to restaurants, I try to avoid ketchup because I turn the label around and it says freaking high fructose corn syrup. So I prefer always buying ketchup that says organic on it. And then I still look at the label and I make sure the ingredients are only like, tomatoes, salt, and sugar. I prefer sugar over that high fructose corn syrup because, as you know, it doesn't get digested properly. We talked about mice studies before, how they're more prone to cancer, they're more prone to gaining weight. So just avoid that stuff completely.
And the thing is, in now modern society, you can't fully eat non processed, and that's completely okay. The key thing is to minimize it because like some things that are considered processed that are not that bad for you. It's like Greek yogurt, almond butter, those kind of things. They are considered processed, but they're not the worst things in the world. So it's really hard for somebody to stick with just eating not processed food because this day and age, things are unavoidable. Like if we didn't have processed foods, we wouldn't be able to get certain foods here during the winter or during the summer or during the springtime because we all know that different food grows in different climates and the way this food gets transported or the way this food has a shelf life is because of these additives. So it's not necessarily the worst thing in the world, but the key thing is just try to minimize it. Try to avoid like saturated fats, trans fats, hydrogenated oils, just things like that. Like we understand that these are completely unavoidable. Like you are going to eat processed food, but the key thing to get out of this is just to minimize it. And if it's getting processed, at least try to make it more, I guess, a more healthier processed food.
Yeah, and what like these companies do is it's all about shelf life, guys. Like it's all about profit at the end of the day. So what they do is when it comes to like trans fats, and what I don't like is what I found out after researching for this topic is that if it's less than zero point 0.5 grams, they don't have to label it as trans fat. They could say trans fat free, correct? And that's messed up because there's still some trans fats in it. And what they do is they chemically alter these hydrogen ions or hydrogen bonds to alter them to be hydrogenated. And what happens is it increases shelf life. So that product looks as beautiful as it was when it, came out of the conveyor belt or whatever the case might be. That's BS, man.
It's very unfair. I think about it. It's a half gram per serving. So imagine if that container has 4 servings, then you're technically eating 2 grams of trans fat. If because the nutrition label obviously shows just per serving, correct? So it's very unfair. And imagine if it has zero point 0.5 and they don't record it because they're not required by law, and you eat the full 4 servings, you got 2 grams, and then plus another thing that it also has zero point 0.5 that's not labeled. You have 2 servings of that, and you get 3. So it's actually it's very, I think, it's very sneaky, very unfair.
And it's messed up how our government is not in our own best self interest to help us with that, or like the FDA. Like it's like the pharmaceutical companies, man. It's all like free reign. Like look at like Gatorade, for example. Why don't you just tell me exactly how much sodium is in the damn whole bottle? Instead, they break it down like, hey, it's 2.25 servings. So now I got to figure out, oh shit, I'm actually tripling up on my sodium intake without even realizing it, just because most people, the average consumer, just looks at the label and says, okay, I'm good to go. Only 175 milligrams of sodium.
The one thing I do want to address while we're on this topic is the concept of these meatless vegan burgers. If you're vegan, it's completely okay. Eat whatever you want to eat, but make sure you just do it in a healthy manner. But you got to understand that these vegan burgers or these meatless burgers aren't necessarily the most healthiest things in the world either. Because a lot of times these vegan burgers, they got to alter these plants that they're putting in there to make it taste like a burger. Because a lot of times these plant-based burgers takes like an actual beef burger. So what do you think they're actually getting that taste from? It's not a natural taste that occurs in plants. It's with the additives. A lot of times they have a high amount of sodium, and sometimes even burgers having more saturated fats than plain old beef or turkey or ground chicken. So you still got to be mindful of your label. Just because you're eating something that's labeled vegan or plant-based or just not a plants doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be healthy for you. It's probably maybe healthier for the environment, not necessarily healthier for you. That's why it's really important to look at these nutrition labels, because even though you're not consuming any beef or any chicken, but you still might get a lot of saturated fats, a lot of sodium, and then now you might even get the zero point 0.5 of the trans fats.
You're completely right. I try to follow a regimen where I try to do whole foods, right? I'm not vegan, or I'm not like carnivore diet. And I don't try to label myself like that. I just try to eat whole food. So like one meal, I'll make some chicken, which is one ingredient. I'll cut up some like vegetables to it. I'll do like, let's just say I'll do like a little saute of onions, some green onions, some peppers, things like that. I'll make like a little fajita type of dish. I'll add some asparagus into that, or I could cut up some sweet potatoes, bake them up. Those are all whole foods, all single ingredients, guys. You just gotta like, it just has to become habit, just like we always talk about. Like you just have to be conscious of what you're eating. And then of course, You could throw in the little processed food in there. Like if you want your little barbecue sauce in there because it's just added taste, go for it. But at least your main dish, your main meal is whole food, which is ultimately based on research, it's known to be the most beneficial for you.
Right. And just because the label says organic or natural doesn't necessarily mean what you think it might mean. Just because it says natural or organic doesn't mean that it's not going to have any of these added preservatives or these antibiotic injected animals. These labels really, if it comes down to it, if you actually look it up online, what these labels actually mean, they don't really mean natural or organic. They have their own definition of what these companies consider organic or natural. Right, right, Matthew. How you doing?
You're correct. I just had a little sip of coffee there. And it's kind of BS too for those that don't know is like most of these studies that are published on the internet, the companies that are having this product, they're funding these studies. So like if you got I don't know who owns Snickers and Reese's and all that. I'm sure it's like one or two companies.
Probably Kellogg or something.
Okay, so let's just say Kellogg. They don't want people to know that sugar is bad for you. So what are they going to do? They're going to go after a different industry. They're going to fund studies to promote, hey, meat is bad for you or dairy, limit dairy. They're going to hide sugar as long as possible away from us till we finally find out as a society that's freaking killing us.
Remember, guys, a few years ago, fats were considered horrible for you, and everybody did everything they can to get rid of fats out of their food. And what did they substitute for the fats? Sugar. And then we found out that sugar is actually more harmful than the actual unsaturated fats that you get from food, because we learned that hormones like your estrogen or testosterone, those are derived from fats that you get outside of the body. So it's completely true what Matt's saying. Is that these companies, they were using a lot of sugar, and that was their key ingredient. So hey, let's not make sugar look bad. Let's try to make something else look bad. So you're being fat, you're gaining weight because the food contains fat. But that's not true. It was because of that sugar.
Yeah, you got to take everything with a grain of salt. Even these documentaries that are on Netflix, man, they all look very, very enticing. One of them is like, What the Health? You remember me and PD and like a group of friends, we watched a documentary in Colorado. We went vegan for like damn 6 good months, on and off, let's just say. Stopped eating foods that were actually whole foods and we replaced it with too much carbs. Oreos were vegan and we just fell off the trend, man. So anything that you're watching on Netflix, if it's Game Changers and eat the vegan diet, the carnivore diet, just take everything with a grain of salt. Our bodies are so freaking beautiful. This organism that we're embodied in we're all different. One diet is not one size fit all for everybody. So just start figuring out what your body likes. And that's one thing I actually want to do is I want to take that genetic test where they check my poop sample just to kind of figure out what my gut bacteria actually likes, you know?
Do you know how they used to test for diabetes back in the day?
No.
They had somebody that they thought was diabetic. They would have pee in a cup, and then they would have somebody drink the pee, and if it was sweet, you're considered diabetic.
No way.
Yeah.
That's interesting. We're definitely gonna do an episode about old remedies that kind of fell off. We're gonna keep this in mind. Let's roll with being financially stable. We as nurses, we finish new grad, we get those nice paychecks, we get a little bit happy because nursing school sucked ass. We start spending money. Getting debt, getting a car, getting a mortgage, whatever the case might be. But what do is we level up on a financial level where we're making more per paycheck, but our lifestyle catches up and we're on the same boat that we just left, which is freaking screwed in that revolving door paying debt, man. So I know PD's great at finances. He's actually my little mentor when it comes to investing stocks, but I'm still in the learning phases of starting to actually do stocks.
Yeah, what people usually do when they graduate school is they get that nice check and they go spend it, which I think is okay. You deserve a reward for all your hard work, like your 4+ years of school. Definitely spend that paycheck on yourself. Take the time to give yourself a reward. But the key thing to take away is to not keep doing that every paycheck. Like eventually, enough has to be enough. You can't just keep acquiring these items, these things, gadgets, clothes, or whatever you're spending money on, because that's not really sustainable. Because then it might be good for a short term, but then you're always chasing money. Then you're wondering like, hey, why do I only have like $5 in my bank account? Is because you keep spending it, and you're always chasing it, and you pile on more credit card debt on top of your current credit card debt plus your student loans. So it's important to treat yourself, but also have a limit. And that's kind of what people like fall through with the kind of having a limit, because they just see the same amount coming in and they just say, hey, I'm 25 years old, I'm 26 years old, I have a whole life ahead of me, I'm just gonna spend it now and then I'll save later. And that's not really a good thing to do with your money.
It's also a problem where we're on social media, we're watching TV. Everywhere we go, everything is based on consumerism. So, dude, it's so hard to tell somebody don't spend money when your Alexa's listening to you, your phone is listening to you, then you get freaking ads based on what you look at. And it's like, dude, it's constant evolving door of getting you to buy something, man. It's freaking rough.
And they do a good job at it, because you're buying on emotion. So if you really want something, so what I do when I want something cool, like I don't know, a new, I guess, I don't know.
We want
Let's
an
say
example. I'm waiting
let's
for an
say
example. What do
let's
you
say
want to buy, Peter?
I want to buy a new Lego set. Go to the store. Damn, I just watched Star Wars. Now I wanted to buy this giant Star Wars Lego set that's like $250. I could buy it then and there, but what I would do, if you're a conscious shopper, you would go home, like that just because it's in the store, it means it's most likely available everywhere else online. So to kind of deflect your emotions is leave that item there, go home, just wait a few days, and if that item is still on your mind, then you're probably gonna buy it no matter what. But for majority of us, the thought of the item kind of goes away. Why? Because you're at the store and emotionally makes you happy. Like, damn, that's so cool. I want to get that. And you kind of get caught in your emotions and you end up buying it on emotion. Compared to if you go home, you think about it the whole drive there. It's like, should I buy this 250 Lego set, or should I just wait till it goes on sale? Or do I really need this? Do I have even room to put this somewhere? Is something I need? And then you kind of think about it on the drive home and you realize, hey, I could probably buy something else. Or you're just like, hey, I don't need this. I was going to buy it, but decide not to. And that's kind of how you get away with, or that's how you get away from buying on emotion. It's kind of just leaving the item there and coming back to it in a few days. And if you really need it or if you really want it, then you could buy it. But give yourself some time to actually think this process through.
So most of our audience are females. I think over 50% plus, maybe close to like 60%.
You
And
don't need those damn shoes.
you don't need those damn shoes. I understand you're going to look good in that dress, but just put it away for now. Just buy it next week or 2 weeks. But what happens is I feel like, at least when I talk to women, they're more emotional. So it's harder to tell a woman to be like, hey, don't purchase that in that given moment, man. That emotion is probably so strong that they end up purchasing things. And I see that amongst like other. I feel like even my mom, for example, dude, she returns so many things that she purchases, and I see it amongst a lot of females. Like, why does that happen? Where you purchase it and then you don't like it, or you change your mind, or it doesn't work? I don't know, man. It's interesting psychology. We should have a female guest on here to explain the psychology of shopping.
I have no idea. Usually when I buy something, I hardly ever give it back, because when I buy something, it's usually I need it and it's something that I usually really want. Like I rarely return stuff, because if I'm not sure, if I'm 50-50 on the fence, I don't get it. Because then if I buy it and I don't want it in the next couple of days, then now I got to go through the whole process of returning. Then I got to drive back to the store, or I got to go to UPS, go to FedEx, get a shipping label. That just adds more time for me to do stuff that I really don't feel like doing, in the future. So if I really don't need it, if I think I don't need it, I usually don't get it.
What
Just
did you
because, what's up?
what did you purchase for the first time when you finished like nursing school? Did you spoil yourself?
No, I don't think I did. I don't think I buy anything fancy.
Okay, I'm just wondering. I spent money, but not on myself. I was a little selfless, and it was my parents' 25th anniversary, so I ended up purchasing them cruise tickets and flights. So I spent like 5 grand on not on myself, but they deserved it, of course, because they're helping me financially with school and everything else.
Yeah, it's a very nice gesture. So guys, instead of buying those 6 pairs of shoes, ladies, just wait a few months to buy your parents a nice vacation to Jamaica.
And then also when it comes to financial stability, right? So we talked about habits kind of how to shop, how to smart shop, but there's also a lot of things you could do for the employers. So the question is do you have your 401k set up? And I'm going to be a little bit biased here because I've switched employers with travel nursing and I'm just starting my 401k setup. So I waited 3 months. That's unfortunate for me. But anybody that's doing that, make sure you get your 401k and make sure you put in as much as your company could match you, correct? So if it's 3%, do that full 3% so that company could give you that 3%. Sometimes, unfortunately, though, when it comes to 401k, there's commitment issues. So for example, for me, I left my hospital prior. They wanted me to stay there for 5 years till they could match that full benefit of 401k. I kind of took the leap of faith. I'm like, I'm not going to wait till my 65-year-old self is going to get all that money. I'll just figure it out now. But that's an option, of course.
Yeah, always. You always want to make sure to put down what they're matching you, and then plus a little more. Even though your employer is going to max you out at like the 3% or 4%, you're at least getting that 4% on top of your already the 4% you're putting in. So always do as much as they contribute max. And like Matt, I'm not sure. So now, are you doing like a private 401k, or are you doing it just through your agency?
So I'm going to do it through my agency, but currently my 401k is just sitting on my old job. So I just haven't touched it. Now with my health insurance ending, because I have to purchase it. So for this contract, I'm setting up 401k and I'm setting up health insurance.
Okay, yeah, it's smart. 3 months isn't really that big of a time if you think about it. But does the agency match you too now?
I haven't gotten into those details. I told my recruiter to send me an email regarding everything. I'm going to see what's going to happen. But I'd have to travel nurse for quite some time to actually see that. And what if I'm taking a break from this company over summer for 3 months? Like I'm not going to get anything for my 401k. So it's a plus minus when it comes to travel nursing and having a 401k.
True. Understandable. Yeah. But for you guys out there with just like a staff job at a hospital, you guys should definitely put as much as you can in your 401k. And the key probably thing about this is to put a higher percentage in when you first start. So when you get your first job, instead of just putting the 4% that they match you, put like 10% or 15%. That's really good because you're getting used to spending the amount of money that you have. So you're putting away 15% plus the 4% that they're matching you, and you're only working with what the 85% that they have left. So that's kind of smart because you're going to spend less because technically you have less income coming into your bank and you're putting more towards your 401k. So you're going to be prone to spend less money.
Love it. Love it. Devil's advocate here. So, a lot of people get out of school, since we're talking to nursing students and people our age for the most part. People are going to get out of college mostly with debt. And what happens is if you got like 50K, let's just say 25K, you are going to be forced to pay an interest rate, right? My interest rate, for example, my federal loans was like 4.66%. So sometimes it's smart to put less money into your 401k and instead focus more on paying off that debt. Because a lot of people don't know, like once you start doing the calculations, for example, on my car note, correct? When I break down the math of how much I'm paying like $2 and like 65 cents a day just for interest that I'm losing out just because I own a loan. So do the math. And if you feel like your college loan or it could be mortgage is crippling you, then stop worrying about, being 65 and having a 401k and focus on paying off that debt that's freaking weighing you down currently when you break it down to a day-to-day basis.
Know your interest rates, guys. And the key is to pay the highest interest rate off first because that's the one that's getting the most interest, So I know credit card debt, that's usually like your high interest. I think some of them are like 16% some people have on credit cards, and that's insane. And the key takeaway from credit cards is I know there's a lot of people are completely against credit cards because they cause debt. They don't really cause debt. You just gotta be able to pay them off in full, because if you don't pay them off in full, you're getting charged interest. So the way me and Matt use our credit cards is like a debit card, except the benefit of using a credit card instead of a debit card is you build points. Some of them offer like 5% cash back or 2% cash back and so on, which is a lot better than having nothing on your debit card. But the key thing is pay off your credit cards first because they have the highest interest rate, and also pay them off in full. That way you're not gaining any kind of interest. Don't just pay the minimum balance, because then you're kind of just adding on to this pile of money that you're eventually going to have to pay off. So spend the money that you only have. So if you have 200 in the bank, in your checking account, and you want to buy something for 150 with your credit card, buy it with the credit card, but then pay it off in full completely. And be mindful of what's actually in your checking. So spend what's in your checking, but use it with a credit card. That way you kind of know exactly how much you're spending and how much you have left.
Dude, yeah, man. Points on credit cards are awesome. Like I pay my stuff up off in full, of course, and like every year I'll have like $500 like cash back that I could use on things or buy something for that, or just put it in my checkings account. A lot of people that don't know credit cards. Yes, if you are one of those people, I call them a revolver because you keep coming back and forth, spitting in a door. If you have $1,000 and you just paid a minimum payment, if you could have a credit card that has zero APR the first year, kudos to you, but you might develop a bad habit of paying minimum payments and then they'll freaking get you at next year. What happens is if you have 23% APR on a credit card, that $1,000 next month, if you pay, let's just say 35 bucks, you'll get like, let's just say 970 out of that 23%. So next month, your bill is going to be like $1,200 to pay off. That's how they freaking get you guys. And then you do another minimum payment. And then let's do 23% of that 1,200, and boom, boom, boom. Those money bags are stacking for those credit card companies, baby. You don't want to be doing that.
Matt's about to open up a credit card bureau over the next couple of years here. 25% interest, everybody.
Yeah, I'm gonna get all these student nurses. Don't worry, I'll pay off your student loans, and then I'll just tax them up really high, man. That's how they get you guys. Why do you think when like you're in like nursing school, you're like in college in general, you have all these Discover cards coming in the mail? Hey, we can help you pay your student loans or take a loan with us. Like, dude, it's just targeting young people that are unaware of how like financial intelligence. Do you want to call it financial intelligence?
Sure, that works with me.
So financial intelligence, like they don't teach this shit in school. Like we don't learn how to write paychecks, unfortunately, or how to write a check, how to balance a checkbook. But we're all good with bling bling and nice shoes and spending. Like that's what's messed up, man. We're being taught to be consumers. We're not learning how to financially be smart, how to screw the system a little bit, man. Because Uncle Sam loves her pockets.
He sure does, man. He's been loving pockets. He's been loving that money in your pockets. He would take it every chance he gets. Well, since Matt talking about spending and consumerism, the best way to actually figure out how much you're spending and what you're spending it on is to make like a monthly budget. Actually, look at your credit card statement. Look at how much you're spending on food, on clothing, on bills, and then you can make a spreadsheet. Or there's like apps. There are certain apps where you just plug in your credit card information into this app, and it breaks down your spending. Because if because we all see the current balance on your Chase app or whatever that's like $300, and you're like, fine, yeah, I'll just pay $300. But when you actually get a breakdown of what that $300 goes to, you'd be pretty surprised. Like maybe you ate out a lot this month, and 150 went to eating out. You're just like, holy shit, I just spent 150 bucks on eating out. That's a lot, and you don't see that when you just pay your statements. When you actually use the apps or make a spreadsheet on how much you're actually spending on what, it's kind of really drastic how much people spend on eating out and certain things like clothing. It's just like you may think you kind of went light this month and didn't do a lot of spending, but then when you look at this breakdown, you're just like, damn, I spent more on clothing this month than I did last month, or I ate out more this month than last month. And you actually have to get a visual of how much you're spending on what, instead of just having that one pretty number.
So Clarity Money is an awesome app that you could use, and there's a few of them. There's Acorn, there's all this little shit, right? So these apps will help you kind of break down monthly what's going on. What I do when I travel nurse, I literally have an Apple Notes section, and I go from week 1 to week 13, and I write down every single little transaction that I have. It sounds a little tedious, but every 2-3 days I sit down, look at my city card because I only use one credit card, and I just start dropping numbers down. So every paycheck I get Friday, I add up the totals for the week. I figure out how much I'm spending, and I'm figuring out how much I'm making. And then I'm able to kind of gauge, hey, I'm making $500 profit a week. Let's crank that up a little bit. Or, oh, okay, I could spoil myself and get something. So I do week to week because technically travel nursing for me is a financial trip. That's how I've labeled. It's in my finance section, and I'm making sure I'm coming out positive to the best of my ability. Plus, I'm travel nursing alone. So I'm spending all that rent money. Like here in Cali, man, you're paying like 2K plus rent. That's a lot of money for myself. That's hurting my stipends. So I'm trying to maximize every little thing I could get. So definitely monthly budget, plan, be strategic, get an app, Excel spreadsheet, use notes, just figure out what's going on. Or sorry, I'm kind of going on a tangent here, but this is good. My juices are flowing. Also, look at reoccurring payments that are happening on a month to month. Like, let's just say you're paying for Netflix, then you're paying for Spotify, then you're paying for a gym membership. Maybe you're spending money on tanning. Women listeners, how often are you getting your nails done? What are you doing? That's the self care routine. Sometimes with monthly reoccurring payments, could be maybe cut down, or you could kind of, you know, minimize them to kind of maximize your monthly profits.
Couldn't have said it any better myself, my man. All right, couldn't have said it any better myself, Matt. And then
I must have got you in a tongue twister there with your brain.
I was just being so mindful and just listening to what you have to say. I just, I got caught snoozing, I guess, or I got caught, zoning out. But
Hopefully, no one bumped into a car while driving. Or make sure you stop on your red lights, guys. Look at the road.
exactly. And then when you're on a red light, don't look at your phone because it's going to eventually turn green, and then you're going to have me behind you honking at you because that's one of the most annoying things in the world. But since you're talking about, coming out on a positive, when you come out on a positive, that doesn't mean that, hey, you should just go spend it every month. There's a lot of people don't have, you could say, like emergency funds. So when you come out on a positive, try to get your emergency fund ready. That's usually like 3 months of income just in case something were to happen. Maybe you get sick, or your parents get sick, or you break your leg, or something happens at work, or you lose your job. You have like a 3 month cushion because things do happen unexpectedly, and you don't want to be kind of caught short financially because that's going to add on stress. You're better off just being stressed with the outside world compared to just being stressed with the outside world plus financially. If you could ease your financial burden during a stressful time, that's going to be a lot healthier for you.
You do need that cushion, man. And that's the cushion that I'm working on now when I'm taking a break from travel nursing for 3 to 4 months when I'm going to be back in Chicago. I want to make sure I have some cushion money just in case if I can't get a job right away or I'm working per diem and I'm not making as much, just so everything works out. When you have your emergency fund, you're also going to start getting savings. And, let's just say you're being smart, you have money. It's sitting in the bank. So the traditional way is to let the money sit in the bank and you'll get some recurrent money for it or whatever the word is. And it's chump change. So if you're financially managing properly, you're becoming smart, you're acing it, start investing. You could do a lot of things with the money that's just sitting there. But of course, you have to be willing to lose it. So don't just throw money out for no reason and you're fucking broke as hell eating ramen noodles, guys. Don't be doing that.
Yeah, I like ramen noodles, but yeah, long term,
Isn't it highly processed, Peter?
it is high process. So I was gonna say, a long term eating of ramen probably isn't the best choice of nutrition, but I like my ramen, especially like because I remember back in the day there was like three flavors. There was like chicken, beef, and then original or vegetable. Now you got all these different Asia flavors. This like orange chicken ramen. It's so good, man. I haven't had ramen in a while, but I remember when I went to the store a couple of days ago. I was like, damn, they have like a whole aisle devoted to ramen. There's so much flavor. It's like cereal, all kinds of cereal, dude, all kinds of ramen. It's insane.
Is there
So
only
yeah,
one? Is there only one brand? I'm not into ramen, so I'm asking.
of ramen. No, I mean I haven't had ramen for a while, but no, there's like different brands of ramen.
Okay.
I think there's a bunch of different flavors. I'm sure there's more than one company. Yeah, so like Matt was saying, so you're financially stable. So now, kind of, what do you do with your money? Like savings account is probably the simplest thing. You kind of just go to the bank, open a savings account, and let your money just sit there. But that's usually the lowest kind of interest, and that's kind of where you should keep your emergency fund. You always have access to it. But there's different kind of accounts you can make. There's money market account, which is kind of like a savings account, but it requires you to have a certain amount of money. So some of them require you to have like $5,000, and they limit you on how much transaction you can make. So you can only have like 10 transactions within like a 6 month period. So it limits you more, but does provide a little bit of a higher interest, which is kind of beneficial if you're kind of not doing anything with that money. There's also something called CDs, or I think they call it CDLs as well. That's provides even more interest, but your restrictions are you got to keep an X amount of money for an X length of time. So sometimes they would say you got to keep $10,000 for 1 year, and I'll give you this much interest, and you're not allowed to touch that money. If you do touch that money, they usually get like a penalty, and that's not something you want to do. And of course, the longer you keep this money in there, the higher the interest rate. So the interest rate for a 5 year, $10,000 is going to be higher than keeping your money there for 2 years or for 1 year. And then I guess the next thing we have here is real estate, which I mean I don't really do much real estate because I don't have that much funds to go around, but people do invest in real estate, and they invest in like commercial property, or they invest in a house that they could remodel or someone could remodel for them, and then they sell it for more. But I feel like that's more of like a time consuming me job. But I know there's apps out there that allow you to invest in real estate without having any kind of uh, management role in it. You kind of just give them the money and they disperse it um, amongst like contracts, and you're just the one providing the money. They do all the managing, they do all the contract discussions, things like that.
Real
I'm not sure
estate's
what I'm not sure
real
what the app is called, but yeah, real estate is kind of like a second job if you had to do it.
It's definitely gold, man. It's like the gold standard. If you have capital, it's the best investment because it's something that won't disappear. Most properties, depends where you buy them, are only going to increase in value. And I'm starting to realize it myself, dude. Like, I lived in a condo, I'm travel nursing. Now I'm renting out my place on Airbnb and I'm making money off it. Like me thinking now is like what I'm going to do since we could talk a little bit about what we personally do because we didn't talk about it this episode. So when it comes to real estate, like I'm thinking like shit, I could literally make money off Airbnb, double up on my mortgage payment, pay it off in a year or whatever the case might be, and then have that financial independence where I could put some money away and invest it in another property. And then the property that's paid off is paying the mortgage off this one, and I'm going to be making some money for myself from the second one. And what do smart people do? They just keep their head down. They don't buy that freaking awesome car, or they don't spend more money on clothes. They continue the same lifestyle, get a bit more capital, get a 3 or 4 more properties, and shit, you could just leave nursing if you want to and have some financial independence.
Yeah, true. But I mean, we make it sound so easy. It's not, it's not just like, hey, you buy property and you rent it out, and then hey, you know, everything's good. You buy another one, and hey, everything's great as well. You just don't know what's going to happen. It's not just like, hey, you buy property and you make money off it. You actually got to do the math. You got to calculate how much your mortgage is going to be. Are the tenants going to be paying the utilities? Are you paying the utilities? How much is the association? And you got to incorporate taxes. How much does that cost? And you got homeowners insurance to work with. So it's not necessarily like, hey, you just spend $400,000. You take a $400,000 loan, and then you pay the 40K down, and then rest, you just cash in the money. It's not how it works. There's a lot more attributed to this. Otherwise, it would be so easy, and anybody will be doing it. This actually takes time, and you can't just buy property and expect to make money out of it. Like think about like the housing bubble, the housing crash that happened a few years back. Nobody was able to predict that. And look at that, houses they got devalued like 25%, if not more. And it's not just like, hey, you buy a property and it makes money for you. There's more goes into it than that.
Of course, Peter's shining perspective here. I don't want you guys to go take out 50K and buy a home right now thinking you'll make money off it. A lot of people have dreams, but those dreams come with smart, actionable goals, breaking it down and, planning properly. Like even when it comes to travel nursing, those people that are interested, like what before you sign a contract, you better find out how much you're spending money on housing, how much money you have to spend on the lifestyle here. Do all that math because a lot of nurses, and I talked to my recruiter, they don't come out positive sometimes, man. Their lifestyle catches up and they're losing money on the road when it technically should be for some extra money.
That's how it is, guys. So if you're gonna, it's your money. You don't want to lose it. So if you don't want to do high risk, don't do high risk. Just put it in like an account somewhere, and have it do your work, or you know have go and speak to somebody like an investment firm that could possibly invest for you, because they'll take $500, they'll take a grand, they'll take however much money you're willing to offer, but just make sure that you know the interest that they charge doesn't overlap how much you're actually making. So I guess the next one is stocks. That's the one I do on occasion, and that's kind of, I feel like you could do stocks, just while I work as a nurse, because it's not the hardest thing in the world. But you also, that's more of a high risk. So if you're older, you might want to invest in something less volatile, less risky. Or if you do want to do stocks, there's high risk and there's lower stocks, which quick Google search can teach you all you need to know about stocks.
And when you're investing in stocks, because let's just say I'm completely new to this, you got to start doing some research on the companies. So you start looking at what their earnings are. I'm not gonna tell you to teach podcast listeners on how to freaking read a graph and how to predict things, but like just a general idea. If you could summarize it in 1 minute, how do you make those choices on where to put your money?
I mean, I don't know if I can summarize it in a minute. I mean,
Do do it for me.
I haven't bought any new stocks besides, like, I guess Peloton, but if you, I mean, I can't really summarize it in a minute. There's more than a minute worth of research. You kind of just look up how the company is doing and what they say their future outlook is, and if you think their future outlook is good, then I guess essentially you would invest in them. But you're not really sure where the economy is going. I don't know where the economy is going. It takes more than just looking at their financials. You got to kind of have an idea of what they're actually trying to do in the future and see if it's actually work in reality. And you got to listen to their conference calls. Every quarter they do a phone call with investors and the public, and they answer questions. And by law, publicly traded company requires them to release a financial statement. So you got to look through those. It takes time. It takes time. But just like I said, go on Google. There's Investopedia that you can look at. Then if you're feeling lucky, read through some stuff and just throw like $500, and hopefully it grows. And usually that should be like your play money. If you're not sure what you're doing with the money, just set aside like a small budget and make that like your play money.
So see, that was a good minute summary, man. I like it. Definitely be willing to lose that money if you're going to be doing stocks. So the last one that's on the list, and I think it's probably the most important thing, is investing in yourself. That's probably the best financial thing you could do, because once you invest in yourself, that trait, that skill set, whatever you're doing is not going to disappear. You getting a bachelor's of science in nursing is an investment. That was the best investment you did, because now you're making 70K or whatever it is a year. What if it's another skill they want to develop? What if it's graphic designing? Let's just say you want to start a podcast. Well, you're going to pay for a course. And me and PD did that too, right? To just kind of find out, you're paying the initial investment to learn a skill, and then you go and shine to the world. You becoming a YouTuber. Why don't you learn how to use the camera, learn how to use the audio, and investing, becoming a yoga instructor. Pay the initial investment, invest in learning how to do yoga, practice, go get clients, go teach classes. Financial and investing in yourself is probably the smartest thing you could do in 2020. Whatever your skill set might be, whatever you enjoy. If it's a hobby, go do it, go learn it, go try it. And if you fail, so be it. You got to, crawl before you walk, guys. So you might mess up a few times before you find a trait or find a skill set that's creating money for you.
Money spent on yourself to gain knowledge is money probably the best spent. Whatever everything that Matt said is probably hits the nail on the head. I couldn't have said it better myself. It's a great summary. And yeah, the best investment you could do is to invest in yourself, because it doesn't mean it has to be for financial gain. Maybe you just like taking a class. Just go ahead, take a class. Like you're losing some money that you can make up in the future. So and you're gaining the knowledge. Maybe like Matt said, maybe like a hobby, and you're just capitalizing on a hobby and making it grow. That's completely fine, guys. But just don't spend it on objects or things that lose value over time.
Even like a car, like car is not an investment like that. Sure, you're going to enjoy the ride, but it's something that keeps appreciating over time. It's not going to increase your finances in the future. It's only going to depreciate. So definitely put your money where you feel like there could be a good outcome. Or let's just say you're into nails. Boom, go start an Instagram, start taking a picture of these nails. If you have to invest in a class or beauty class to learn the nails, do the damn thing, or eyelashes, and then make that initial investment. And then maybe you could come up positive in the future. It's just being creative. Like, it's 2020, the internet's at its mature peak. Like, there's so much opportunity for growth. You just have to step outside that bubble, that comfort zone, and of course, like, just go against the norm, right? Like, you don't have to go to school to get a degree if that's not your choice. You could try other things. There's other avenues.
Hey guys, thank you for tuning in. Hope you guys learned a lot. Hope you guys learned something about processed foods. Beware of processed foods. Just because it's a meatless burger doesn't mean it doesn't have the same additives or antibiotics or chemicals added to it as like your typical beef. So make sure you guys are eating healthy. Watch out for the high sodium. Watch out for those unnecessary ingredients. And guys, save your money. Pay off your loans. Pay off your credit cards. Put some money in the bank. Get a fund going. Yeah, stay financially stable, guys.
And those that are Patreon fans, we're about to hit up the after hours. Those that are not aware, every single episode we go into after hours. We kind of talk off topic. We kind of talk some shit. We could swear a little bit. We could talk about more in-depth topics that we can't really share on the air. So if you're listening, we're going to start having Patreon content. Make sure you sign up. We'll post a link. It's $1 to support us. We would appreciate that, because it helps us grow and reinvest money into the podcast. And if you spend like $5 or something, we're going to have exclusive content for you guys. We're going to do some giveaways there. PD might take his shirt off. Anything's possible. Everything's game. So we'll see you guys next week.
See you guys. Have a good one.